Yes.
Okay. Right, ready for us? Yes. All right, we will call this, thank you, Beth, we'll call meeting to order. Everyone is in attendance, Robert is virtual. With the pledge of. All right, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone. Mission statement: Viroqua area schools will nurture excellence, unlock potential, and ignite passion. We have the audit report from Lauterbach and Damon, and we have Dan here today. Welcome. So, have at it.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for being able to be here tonight.
Yep, it's not a problem. It's all part of the process. So I'm Dan Trudgeon. I'm an audit manager with Lauterbach and Amon. I've been with this firm for about a year and a half now. However, I have about 8 years total within the public accounting experience, working strictly with school districts in Wisconsin and municipalities. I also have some accounting services experience as well, so I understand the extent of work that goes into preparing for an audit, working with auditors and the audit documentation itself, and then preparing the annual financial report, which is what we're going over here tonight. Before moving on, I'd just like to say thank you to everyone at the district for getting through this audit process. Next year is going to be very smooth sailing. So the audit process is required by DPI every single year. Everyone must undergo the annual audit and submit the financial statements at the end. Viroqua is also subject to federal single audit as they expend over $750,000 in federal grants, which has its own set of requirements and own set of testing. The overall audit process includes testing transactions of the district's general ledger and overall trial balance accounts based on materiality. So within the materiality, we set specific thresholds to test overall balances, and then we also have a lower threshold to test specific transactions in those overall balances just to make sure we're covering our bases and to make sure that everything makes sense. So from all that testing, that leads us to our audit opinion, which if I share my screen and get to the right one, do you see the table of contents? Okay.
Yeah.
So all of our audit testing leads to this independent auditor's report where we form our opinion. So the district received an unmodified opinion on their financial statements, which is the highest level of assurance that an audit can provide, meaning that the financial statements, the district's books, and all related footnotes and all related activities are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, which is the ultimate goal of every audit. We want everyone to get a clean opinion. Doesn't always necessarily happen based on circumstances, but the district, Viroqua Area School District, received a clean opinion. The rest of the audit opinion goes through the responsibilities of management, which is the district, the auditor's responsibilities, which goes through what we do. The reason we do materiality and specific thresholds is because we're providing reasonable assurance, not a high, which is the highest level of assurance, but we're not doing perfect assurance going through every transaction. So after the opinion, the main thing that I'll focus on tonight is the operational fund of the district, which is the general fund. And when we're looking at the health or the operational activity of the general fund, we typically end up looking at fund balance. So I prepared a little table with a chart for fund balance of the district over the past 5 years, just to see a little bit of trend analysis for you. So in 2020, the overall fund balance was about 4.8 million with expenditures of 15 million. where fund balance was 32% of those expenditures. In 2021, went up to 4.9 million with 16 million of expenditures. Overall fund balance was 30% of those expenditures. And as you can see, each year, fund balance went up a little bit in 21 and then has been decreasing ever since, the biggest jumping in 2022 to 2023. And expenditures keep rising, which due to inflation and all of the other extra fun stuff after the COVID pandemic, that is typical across the board. But what I would like to draw your attention to most is this percentage of expenditures in comparison to your fund balance. The district has a fund balance policy that states the ending fund balance shouldn't dip below 20%. So at the end of 2024, there was 3.9 million of ending fund balance with 19.4 million of expenditures, and the district ended right at 20%. So going forward, this is something that the district might want to monitor, just so in the event you do drop below that 20%, that you're doing some reflections on the budget and seeing what you could potentially do to increase that fund balance or maintain that fund balance. So at the current state, you aren't not in compliance with your fund balance policy, but if the trend continues, next year, there would be potential for a management letter comment stating that fund balance policy is not met. Current time, it isn't an issue. There weren't any budgetary comparison issues as well. The budget was well prepared and the district stayed within the guidelines of their budget. So there's nothing to report on that. The other thing that I would like to go over within the presentation would be the current recommendations within the management letter. I'd like to preface that with these are solely recommendations. They are not findings saying that the district is doing anything incorrectly or wrong or anything that absolutely needs to change. All of these are recommendations based on making the district a more sound entity when it comes to generally accepted accounting principles. So the first one is collateralization of deposits, which is just stating that of all of the deposits held within the financial institutions, banks, or credit unions, there were 1.7 million of deposits at the bank, 1.2 million were collateralized and insured, leaving 492,000 uninsured or uncollateralized. This calculation does not take into consideration the state guarantee fund because that is not fully funded by the state. Therefore, you are not guaranteed the entire 492,000 that was uninsured from the state if there were a banking crisis, which is why it is not part of the calculation. The only recommendation here would be to look for additional collateral to cover that entire amount if the district deems that necessary. This does not include any LGIP, WISC, or other investment balances that the district may have because those are collateralized through other means. Next one would be a capital asset policy. The district does have a capital asset policy, but it is missing one specific piece that would make it a full, well-rounded policy. The part that is missing are the minimum useful lives for an item to be capitalized. So, for example, in the financial statements, it'll say buildings is 20 to 50 years. That part is not in your policy, and it'll help kind of budget for those specific capital assets that you do routinely replace if there were vehicles or other equipment such as lawnmowers or athletics equipment. So you kind of understand what bucket they fall into and how often you should be reviewing those for replacement.
Dan, I have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we work with a company called Neola, and they assist us
Yes.
with our policy. And so my question would be, is that something that's different from state to state, that should be included? Or is that just considered, is that a procedural component? Or is it typically in policy?
Some districts get very specific with their policies and they have every little detail that they would need to do the procedures over their capital assets in their policy. And some leave it up to judgment on the portion that I am describing.
Okay.
So when you're looking at capital assets as a whole, you'll have your threshold for including them in your capital asset listing, whether it be $5,000, $10,000. So anything over that you'd include. What constitutes a capital asset, the specific categories, so buildings, equipment, vehicles, land improvements, so on and so forth. And then there's the useful lives of those assets, saying this is the amount of time that we are going to depreciate those assets over. So there's just many components. Some places like having every single component, just so it's black and white, and others, as long as they have the capital asset threshold and what constitutes a capital asset, that's good enough for them. So it's really just depends on how detailed you want to be.
Have we discussed that with Neola then?
We haven't discussed this specific one, and Dan, I mean, this is where we can go back into, this is a recommendation for best practice. I think that when you get into a district our size, there will be differences because we don't have people, like this would be Cody and
Oh, I see.
trying to take a guess at, you know, how long, right, how long that would
How
be.
long it would take
We
to
don't have the
depreciate.
support, the systems in place that some of the larger districts
I see.
have.
Okay.
That's not saying that we can't do it or take our best guess, but
Right.
that's what it would be at this point, you know?
Okay.
But again, this is where, when Dan's walking through this, these are recommendations, you
Sure.
know, for best practice, not findings, like he said, these are, hey, this is where you could improve upon this practice. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if this would come up then every year, if it was something that we then
Potentially.
wouldn't do because we don't particularly have the staff to include that.
And that's something I can always bring up too, if it's something that isn't something that the district wants to do. I would bring that up to my superiors and say, hey, is it really worth putting that in there every year if they don't feel it's their best practice? And we could go from there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
I'm not saying we won't do it. I'm just
Yep.
saying, I'm just wondering what it will look like, you know, for the future.
Right. And you don't want it sitting there year after year just because.
Right.
Yep. I totally understand that. So then the next one would be number of cash accounts. And this one solely came up because the district does have a lot of separate bank accounts for their scholarship funds. And the rationale behind this recommendation is it takes a lot of time and effort to reconcile each bank account. So the more bank accounts you have, the more time you're spending, the more potential for human error on which bank account you're using, which bank account you're transferring to, and then ultimately just the volume of transactions between accounts. So the recommendation for that one would be if you can consolidate or commingle cash where you can, where it's feasible and where it's allowable. Sometimes those scholarship accounts specifically, the funding source says, nope, you need a specific bank account so we know what the balance is at all times. Then so be it, but the recommendation, if you can operate on fewer bank accounts to make your lives easier in the business office, that would be a great recommendation. So when it comes to those scholarship funds that do have each individual bank account, we typically see 3 variations of how that is handled in school districts. One would be the way Viroqua is currently handling it with separate bank accounts for each, and then they use one revenue and expense for all donations and all expenses related to issuing scholarships. Others will have one bank account or a checking and a savings, or maybe a CD or two. But then they have a separate revenue and expense account for each funding source. And then those all have a project code, so they each flow into their own fund balance. So then the fund balance account will reflect what that bank account would reflect. And then the other option would be you have both. You have all the bank accounts, you have all the revenues and expenses, and all the fund balances. So we're not saying that the district has to change or close accounts or consolidate, but just something to consider if there is a need or want to not have all of those reconciliations at the end of each month, or especially when you are issuing all those scholarship checks. And then the last one is outstanding check write-off policy. The district had some outstanding checks on their bank reconciliation for the general checking account stemming back to 2021. None of them were large dollar amount, and there weren't a lot of them. However, having an outstanding check policy to know when to write them off, when to reissue, when to send those amounts to unclaimed property at the state, and how many years those would sit on the bank reconciliation before going through those procedures would be best practice, just so that way they don't sit on there forever and the district knows exactly what the plan is for their outstanding checks.
I remember us having a conversation about that quite a few years ago.
4 or 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah. And it being a problem, so.
Yep. The only problem from an auditing perspective is they sit on there for 4 or 5 years, and then an auditor might say, hey, was that even a real check? And because it hasn't cleared, nothing's been done with it, what is your procedure over that? Not saying that that is the case in any way, shape, or form, but that could be a problem somewhere, sometime in the future. And plus, with turnover, I know a lot of new business managers, finance directors want to start with a clean slate as well. So then the last 3 comments in here are just upcoming accounting pronouncements. One being GASB 101 related to compensated absences, which is your accrued sick vacation leaves. So this coming audit, we will be looking at what the district has for their policies, what their leave balances are, and compare that to the new standard and see if it's applicable, if it's not, and what to do with those balances. So we'll work with the district to come up with the best solution for that standard. The next one would be GASB 102, certain risk disclosures. This one probably will not have a huge impact on school districts themselves, just because there isn't, yes, there's taxes, yes, there's federal and state funding, but those are pretty standard year after year. This would be more so in the municipal world for a utility that has one customer that attributes 25% of water and sewer revenues. If that customer were to leave, close doors, then the utility would be in a world of hurt. So if there were maybe some tax parcels that could go away, maybe this would be an issue, or if there was a huge cut in the state budget, but typically you won't know that until it happens. And then the last one is GASB 103, financial reporting model improvements. This one is just changes to the financial statement presentation. There shouldn't be much on the district side to do for this one. So with that, are there any other questions that I can go over on the audit?
Robert, you're virtual. Do you have any questions? Anybody else?
Yes, I do. In regards to our fund balance keep decreasing and our expenditures rising, it seems inevitable that this year will be under the 20% threshold. Now, other than an audit statement, what repercussions do you see with that?
I think the biggest repercussion would be, when does the district find it necessary to short-term borrow? How low are you as a board willing to let fund balance go before operational measures need to take place? So that is really the biggest push for having that fund balance policy, is what is your comfort level? So if it dips too low, you might not have the cash reserves in between your big aids, state aid cycles or your tax cycles to cover everything that needs to be covered. So this is even something that could be looked at, on a month-to-month basis, quarterly basis as a board, to see when those larger dips are, and is short-term borrowing an option?
Well, I believe we have a line of credit for some short-term borrowing, but it's been a policy of the district not to use that because it adds a cost.
It does. There's an interest component to that.
And as I look at it, it seems like we're making a trend line down, and I'm concerned as to what's caused that also. To me, it would be expenditures over revenues, but maybe there's another side to it. I'm not the school business manager or an accountant.
And that's something that we can revisit with the next audit as well, just to see how 2024 to 2025 has played out, because 2023 to 2024 wasn't as big of a drop as the previous year. So what happened between 22 to 23 for that large drop? I don't necessarily have that answer for you because I was not the auditor that year. 2023 to 2024 was a much lesser drop of $100,000. So it could have just been some larger repairs on the district, or some anticipation of the large capital project that was coming through. But it'll be hard to tell without the next cycle to see where that trend is going to continue.
So one of the reasons that we had a 3-year referendum versus a 5-year referendum or 2-year referendum is because we didn't know what the state was going to do, because the 5-year referendum didn't allow us enough operational dollars because of the increase in our expenses. So to me, that would make sense why that amount has gone down, because we have had to go into that fund because we didn't have enough money because of the increase in expenses.
During the 5-year.
During the
Yeah.
5-year one. That's
Yeah.
why we did a 2-year this time,
Yep.
because we don't want to be in that same situation again with not knowing
We're
what the
already
state's
about
going
doing
to.
something to prevent that.
We are trying to do something, but
Yeah, and I think, Dan, and maybe you can point or kind of talk through this too, is when we look at the increase in our spending due to the capital referendum on top of increases in other funding over the past 5 years due to ESSER funding or whatever came through, even if you maintained a relatively level fund balance, your percentage is still an issue. So whether, the same dollar amount, your percentage is going down, even if you hold that pretty steady, which over the course of the 5-year period, ours has been pretty stable overall. And so that's a piece where, as your expenses have gone up because of the couple of things, with an influx of some grant dollars and an influx of now spending because of the capital project, even if you maintain, it's still going to be a decreased percentage of your overall dollar amount. So I know that's really hard to but it's not like we're having these crazy fluctuating fund balance amounts. It's a piece where we're maintaining, it is, on paper though, our expenses are higher.
So the real question would be, we really don't want to short-term borrow if at all possible. So that would be something that Chris, if he's experiencing that, perhaps the board should be aware of that.
Yeah, and that's something we need to probably just reevaluate with Neola, the policy, and look at our options. Because there's other policies that say, hey, you have a goal of 20%, but you have to, kind of, look at, these other options always with the intention of avoiding short-term borrowing. Just like Robert said, it costs you money to borrow money. So it doesn't make any sense for the district, if at all possible, to avoid that. We want to do that.
There's another institution that I work with, and their policy is 16%. Not that I'm saying we should change our policy. I'm just saying that there are variations within that policy.
Absolutely.
Well, there's some that are up in the 60 to 80% also. And when we continue to go downward, I don't know how much dollars we went down. Is it $1 million in fund balance? I saw the chart, but I didn't take notes. And our expenditures go up, but also then we would be in need of short-term borrowing during those intermediate times between our expenses and state aid payments. And since the amount that we pay out each year is growing quite rapidly, then we end up needing to borrow more money in the interim. So therefore, will our $2 million or whatever it is line of credit be sufficient going forward?
So once again, I'd say we need to be aware if our district is having to short-term borrow. So we should be in tune to that, and we don't obviously want that. So if that becomes an issue, then that should be a whole different conversation that we're having.
And this is more of a policy conversation than an audit conversation. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
It's okay. Nope, it's all relevant. It's all relevant.
So Dan, do you find districts that you work with, is there a common number or percentage for this that you find? For fund balance?
I've seen as low as 10%, and I've seen as high as 30 to 35.
Okay.
But again, it's really a comfortability level. It's not necessarily this is the best percentage across the board. Some places also base their fund balance policy on what their creditors would like to see their operational level to be at, which usually 20% is good. Anything above 25 to 30% is excellent. So you're still in good standing with from a lending and creditor perspective on that too.
The only other question that I personally have is, do you know when the process for our audit might begin this new year, starting in July?
Absolutely. We are starting preliminary processes right now. So we will be working with Chris to get as much done ahead of time as possible. That way, when we are in the crunch time of getting as much done between whenever the books are cleaned up in July through the first DPI reporting that is due at the end of August, we have as much done as possible. So we are trying to stay ahead of the ball game this time.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We
Yep.
appreciate it. Anybody else
You are
have any
welcome.
questions? Robert, did you have another question?
Well, I have one kind of maybe for anybody else on the board. Has anybody seen this downturn in the fund balance and the percentage? Was that reported in our last audit? I cannot remember it. So
Yes.
maybe
Yes.
Every audit, yep.
Okay, I missed that. Thank you.
All right. And anybody else? Well, thank you. Very nice to meet you, Dan, and we look forward to working with you this summer.
Yep, nice to meet you all as well. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Have a good week.
You too, thank you.
Okay, so the next item is Committee reports. We have Kim with compensation.
Compensation met in closed session tonight to continue our process of negotiation, and we never did anything in open session, so that's it.
Thank you. And Matt, budget and finance.
Yeah, we met pretty quick right before this meeting. Chris gave an outline on 24-25 budget adjustments. Had some adjustment in some high-cost transportation. So that had an increase in the budget due to some bus purchasing. But we're also selling some buses, so there's gonna be an offset in there as well. That's still gonna cost us about $10,000 to purchase bus, but that's a good price. And then there was some adjustment as well as special project aid and some ESSER funding that was coming in. Again, one-time funding, last kind of a thing. And that potentially could be used to shore up some of that fund balance and taking a look at some opportunities there. Otherwise, it was a lot of just cleaning up how items are coded within the budget. So just some differences on how Mike did things versus how Chris does things, and just coding those a little bit differently from that standpoint. And then we did see the 25-26 preliminary budget update on that one. That one we were a little rushed for time on. I don't think there was a lot there, Chris, that really stood out from that standpoint, not really much from an adjustment standpoint. That was it.
There'll be a lot more next month as we get closer to the ending of school and the start of school.
Yep.
Awesome. Welcome visitors. Any public comment?
There was none.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Next, consent agenda, and that includes approval of the agenda, proof of public notice, meeting minutes, check summary 1 in the amount of $302,161.59. Retirements, we have none. Resignation, Alyssa Utek, please how she pronounces her name, middle school school counselor for 3 years. We wish her well and thank her for her time in our district. Appointments, Kate Merritt, elementary school reading and math intervention teacher. And we have the 25-26 student at risk plan and the second reading of policy 8500, which is school nutrition services.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? The only thing that I would like to say is the student at risk plan exceeded my expectations. And that's great. Thank you, Kathy. Also, middle school with 0. That's amazing. I don't know what you all are doing over there, but it's very impressive. Thank you for that. Anyone else? No? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is check summary 2. These are health insurance items.
I'll move to approve check summary 2 in the amount of $284,693.52.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain. The next item is 24-25 budget adjustments. Is there a motion to approve the 24-25 budget adjustments presented, as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Chris, for working through that and making those changes. We appreciate it very much. All in favor vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, 25-26 preliminary budget. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve 25-26.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Information and discussion. We have donations over $100, Culver's $352 to the FFA, Citizens First Bank $100 to middle school block party. Both amazing, successful events. We would like to thank them for their generosity. As always, our community is very philanthropic and we're very fortunate to have all of the financial support. We have 24-25 school nurse report and health office report, and I'm going to continue here. We have 24-25 seclusion and restraint report. So you can go, Kathy. You can go out with a bang here.
It's Kathy's meeting.
June is always the cat group. Show. So, we're very fortunate to work with Scenic Bluffs and to have Lisa Wanless as our nurse for the district. She put together a pretty comprehensive report for you, and she is excited to be here. She wants to thank Deb Deaver for all of the work that Deb does at the elementary school as well, and Deb works the spreadsheets and keeps all of these tallies and the status, so that's very important. Accomplishments this year incorporated a new training with the paraprofessionals, including diabetes, asthma, seizures, and that was very well received. Trained new subs for our health aid in the elementary. Last year they didn't have subs. This year they've had substitutes and some nurses that have come in to work with them. They attended the nurses conference in Madison, where she learned how to better assist students in diabetes and was also able to social network with her nurses. She was nominated by Viroqua as the School Nurse of the Year. So we're very, very lucky to have Lisa. You can see that the visits ran over 3,000 at the elementary and 3,000 at this building as well, if you would add those two together. So it's a well-needed service, and thank you to Scenic Bluffs, thank you to Lisa, and thank you to Deb Deaver. Any questions on that?
Thanks, Kathy. I don't have any questions, but I think that for the general public to realize how many things the nurse does now and how many health issues that students have, the breadth of those procedures, from dealing with diabetics, from dealing with tube feeding, other procedures, and I really appreciate all the things that happen in that department.
It's impressive.
Yep, they work very hard. Sorry.
You want to go on?
Done with the health report. Okay. On to seclusion and restraint. As you can see, our seclusion and restraint ran about the same as it has in previous years. It was 5 incidents. Two of those had an occurrence of both of restraint and a seclusion. It's interesting that of those 5, 3 were one student, and that student was throughout the year at Montessori at the middle school and in an alternate placement. So we worked really, really hard with him. We have 43 trained staff members in CPI. The law says that we need to have 1 in order to have a physical restraint. A major part of that training is de-escalation and to not put hands on kids. Our staff is very, very good at de-escalation and talking kids down before they would have to touch a child, and only do that if it's a detriment to themselves or hurting other in a worry to hurt others. So we want to keep that number at 0, but 5 is very, very good. Not at the high school level. So.
I also appreciate the history over, I think it's 5 years, and seeing how it is lower now than it has
Yes.
been in a very long time. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful too.
Yeah, so that shows that our staff really works very hard at it. We have an on-staff trainer as well, that continues to get the most up-to-date, training, so he can pass that on to our staff. We're very fortunate to have that as well.
Anybody else? I'm going to give you an option here, since you're already standing. Would you like to do the social work review?
I'd love to.
I was thinking you might say that.
All right, so every year, because the social work position is a relatively new one, she's been with us 3 years. I just want to make sure that it gets in front of the board, how important we feel that position is. And so I asked her to put together a little bit of an overview on office visits. She's now a part of some IEPs. She's a part of the student services department, and the student services at risk, they meet monthly at the high school, the middle school. She connects with the elementary when they need to reach out to DHS. So we're very, very fortunate to have Jamie. And she works very closely with our sources of strength. She works very closely with our homeless population. She's a part of the trauma task force at the county level. And so she's on our safety team and our threat assessment team. So we really utilize that position as well, and are continuing to find more ways to integrate her into classrooms, into working with all kinds of students.
Questions? The only thing I can add to that is, once again, it was very impressive the number of students that she works with and how she's been able to assist and find resources for different students for different reasons. And so that was really very impressive also.
Okay.
So,
I think that
Thank you.
concludes the Kathy show.
thank you. Kathy, that's it. Thank you. So the next is Chris, health insurance review. Not perhaps as exciting. Maybe. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend.
You offended the
Chris,
health
can you
insurance.
give us just a little bit there, perfect, so we can see
I was manning the camera, I should know where to stand, right?
her.
Okay, so we're gonna work through our April report. This is the most recent report that we've gotten from Conkle on our health insurance. Also working on kind of setting up a regular schedule for these, timed at certain months throughout the course of the year to be able to sort of provide an idea of where we're at about halfway through, closer to the end, and then sort of a recap of the previous year as well using these same reports. So that's something to look for in the future. So as we work through here, they do a really good job of providing some detail on kind of where we're at. Again, this is through April, so it doesn't include the remaining part of the year, but does give us a pretty good sense of where we're at. So long story short, I'll go through his detail. We're having a good year, which is nice to see after having a couple of challenging ones in the recent past. You can see 54% of our plan cost is on the medical side. Administrative costs are 21%, prescription drugs are 19%, and dental is about 6%. Large claimants make up not quite a third of the total plan cost. And I do like the graph on the bottom of this first page that sort of goes your monthly actual to budget and kind of how each month goes. Obviously there are some major fluctuations in those months, but the trend line's really good. Onto the second page, so this kind of takes all the claims and dollar figures and those kind of things for each month throughout the course of the plan year. And then sort of keeps a running total in the lower right-hand corner of the variance to actual funding. So you can see there, that means we're ahead so far for the year by about $262,000, which is a nice thing to see. Obviously, we've got 4 more months yet to go on this, and we'll have to see where everything shakes out, but that's a very, very good start to the year. Next page is just the medical and prescription drugs, and then the dental alone as well. We're running a little short on the dental side. We haven't made any moves there to increase any costs there, and that may be something that we entertain. We're still waiting on our renewal information. Hopefully we'll have that soon. We did meet with Kunkel a week ago.
Yeah, we
like
can
that.
have going, yeah.
As soon as we get that information, we'll be able to kind of share that out and where all that settles in at. We're just waiting for them to do final negotiations on their end. You can see on page 6 here, I guess there's the one I cut out, so it's in page 5 of page 6 of this in the lower right-hand corner of the page. Vast majority of our folks are in network. That has a lot to do with the Alliance and the fact that we do cover a lot of all the major providers in the area outside of me. Reserve tracking is the next page, and you can see there that sort of build up of the fund balance on the health insurance side as it relates to how good the year has gone. The next page, which in the lower right-hand corner is page 9, is a little hard to read because the 24-25 numbers that are on the bottom of this are just through April, not the whole year. The one number that is annualized is in the lower right-hand corner, the 20,161, which is the average cost per family. So you can kind of compare that to prior years to sort of see where we're at year to date in comparison to those prior year numbers. I think as we move forward and we look at this renewal, we keep getting some information. We got a little bit of potentially positive news today on one front that might help out in a very good way. But we'll share all that information once things are finalized. Any questions?
Questions, Robert? Anybody?
No, thanks.
It's great to be feeling well.
Yeah.
So next we have Tom with school safety drill report.
All right, so attached you'll see a drill, an emergency drill snapshot that includes a document that has all of our fire drills and all the other drills that we've done. Ones that we really want to talk through and point out, we've had our safety team that's been more intentional about making sure that we do our safety drills in a way that is going to be productive and the least traumatizing is probably the word. I mean, when we think back to when we started safety drills to how thoughtful we are now about those processes, it's a very different process. And so very thankful for that team for helping to organize that. But what I do want to call out, if you look at the middle school, high school piece, so we did our evacuation on the 27th of May, and that was an evacuation to 2 of our 3 rally points. And so the students left the building with the staff, went to the rally points, took attendance, reported back, and then in that same amount of, so the 16 and a half minutes is total time for them from leaving the building to getting back into the building, which is incredible. And so that was a piece of, just really showed us how, if we're organized, how quickly we can, take 600, plus people out of the building. So, the elementary one, which I think, no offense to a middle school, high school, but for us to get back into that elementary building in under 25 minutes, we were just over 24 minutes, was I would not have bet that we would get them back in under a half hour. We have little people that also are not always, you can't just say, hey, go do this, right? This is a lot of modeling and a lot of showing them what to do. And so for that drill, this is the first time we've done one of these in many, many years. And so we didn't really know what to expect. And for them, again, to be under that 25-minute mark was incredible. So big shout out to the staff. And I know that this causes a lot of stress when we throw something at the staff like this. But I really am thankful for all of the work that safety team did, both with not only planning, but communication and making sure that the parents knew what was happening, those kind of things. So huge shout out to everybody there. We also did a lockdown drill earlier in the year, and we did a classroom hold. So classroom hold is one we use the most compared to the other drills, and that's what we do that a lot in health situations when we just can't have people in the hallways. And so that's where we'll go into a classroom hold, which is essentially just you stay in your room, keep teaching, keep going through your process that way. But if the bell rings or if there's a normal transition period, we just are not going to do that right now until we've got that lifted. And we've had a good year of not having to use it this year, but last year we had to use a classroom hold quite often. So this is a piece where, as we practice these drills, we get better and we learn a ton of things that we need to, clean up and get better at. So thank you for everybody. And then, also a big shout out to Brandon Larson from Vernon County Emergency Management. He does an outstanding job of leading and making sure that we are coordinated, because for an evacuation drill, we needed to have officers from the county and from the city, and there were a lot of people here, and an all hands on deck approach. And that doesn't just happen. That takes a lot of coordination, and we're very lucky in this county to have someone like that is a really solid communicator and can rally support for things. So huge shout out to him.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You also have the district administrator workshop, summer food service program, and summer maintenance project.
Yeah, so we'll bounce through. We had our board workshop on the wellness key for the strategic plan last Monday. Great conversation, and walked through quite a few data points, more than what we typically would. And two goals came out of that. The one was to have a communication plan, a yearly communication plan in place. And Kathy has a draft of that already ready to go. So we'll talk through with the admin team just to make sure we're on the same page this week. But what that looks like as communication page 4, how do we make sure that our student services resource page is easily accessible and promoted throughout the year so that everybody knows the link between the district and all of the resources throughout the community? Because we have this page, it's an awesome page, it's well set up, but I think we are probably not getting the usage that we need to because people don't know it exists. And so that's a piece where we just have to come up with an intentional plan of consistent communication throughout each year so that we're promoting that page. The second was a goal for relationships and decreasing that as the highest indicator for an internal survey that we do here. And so that piece stemmed from a really large conversation about across data points. So data we looked at was everything from attendance, some pieces of attendance, food service usage. We talked about staff usage of our EAP or Employee Assistance Program. We talked about staff usage of our wellness program, among a bunch of other data points. And so we wanted to find something that could kind of could impact more than just one data point. And so the focus will be on relationships and relationship building and skill building amongst our students under that pillar. So the work of the admin team now is to go and create a work plan for that. And what does that look like to make sure that it is an active part of this. And this is something that not only us, but most districts need to get better at. Is we know that it's important, and then we get into survival mode as soon as we get into school, right? So we talk about these things often, and then it's a piece of, okay, some of these things kind of they don't fall by the wayside, but it's a piece of, oh yeah, we said that this was important, right? And that's gonna be a big key for the administration and the board moving forward, is making sure that we're looking at things regularly and making sure that we're keeping what we say is important as important pieces of our day-to-day operations. And so once we have that work plan finalized, and that probably will come with the next superintendent, they will be sharing that with the board and with the staff as far as what that looks like. And I don't mean a work plan for like, hey, staff, you need to do this. It's a work plan for what the district and what the district office, what we're doing to make sure that that stays at the forefront, and that we're providing the resources necessary so that we can get full.
We also talked about a quarterly report with all of our keys,
Right. Pillars.
with all of the pillars and all of the goals that were set.
Yep.
So just showing the progress that the district is making on a quarterly.
Yep.
We haven't done that in the past.
It's really making the work visible. That's going to be the key moving forward. So any questions on that piece? Okay. Summer school food service program, you can click that link there. Really, this is just a reminder to not only the board, but also to the community that we participate in the program that allows kids to eat free over the summer. And so that's free lunch for any child 18 years or under. And so we're doing that in the elementary cafetorium, and that'll be June 10th. So we started June 10th. It'll go through July 3rd, and that's for breakfast and lunch. Students enrolled in summer school will get their breakfast and lunch as part of their school day. They have been getting that, and we've heard good feedback already. And so that's a great program, and I would encourage anybody in the community to come on in, even if you're not a part of summer school, to eat and the awesome lunches and breakfasts that our kitchen staff is providing. Any questions on that? All right. Summer maintenance projects. So this one is a really fun one, because the last few years we've had a laundry list. Maybe that's not even the right word. Mass chaos during our last 2 summers. And this summer there will be projects. There's always projects. And so, but this summer we really only have one major project, and that's the windows on the west side of the elementary. So that's the closest side to Education Ave over there, over on that side of the elementary. So they'll be getting new windows, both in the classrooms, and then there's some uppers on the library along that side that will also be new. We are trying to coordinate that, and it will be done in July. We are actually trying to coordinate a piece here. And again, I want pictures of this if we can actually make this happen. So we were talking through, just as part of our safety plans, teachers are taught, hey, if you have to break a window, break a window. A lot of our teachers are not comfortable with that statement. So they actually brought this up in the elementary to go, hey, we have to break those windows anyway. Is there a way that we can try, And so Brandon Larson has been organizing and trying to get that piece with actually like instructing, hey, in the event that we have to do that, how do we do that? And so again, there's going to be some insurance waivers pieces, but really it's going to be more of a tutorial of this is how you would do this, and we can kind of go from there. But it's been a really good process. The company has been great at working around our schedule. This is the first time in my 5 years that I've seen summer school the way that it has been intended to be, which is over at the elementary and not on a modified schedule. So I've literally never seen it the way it's supposed to work. It's working really well, oddly. So that's really the only. Otherwise, it's the maintenance schedules as we are working through. The only other minor project is that there And I'm not sure if Chris signed those papers yet or not, but we've got some AC pieces in the pool lobby area. So we've replaced everything over there as far as, the system that we could, minus the lobby. And now we're having some failure pieces there that we just have been limping through, but now it's time to adjust, but not anything major as far as costs there. So it's not a difficult project, but I think our staff, both maintenance and in general, our staff is ready for a summer where we're not moving them or shuffling them or asking them to do something completely different than what they're used to for the first time in 5 years.
Yeah, the staff's done a great job. It's campus looks amazing. I did have a question in regards to roofs. Are we having any leakage or anything that we need to take care of, or is there any? I've heard rumors about the pool
Yeah.
area.
I have not had any. We had a piece over at the pool where they had it would have been the west facing wall, correct, Chris?
Yep.
That it's hard to explain, Robert, because it's a caulking, but it's almost like it's so much caulking that it's almost like a gasket. That they have they finished that work yet? Or they're working on it, yeah. So they're working on that piece, but that's the only thing that I can think of as far as any roof issues that we've been made aware of. But Cody's obviously not here, so I don't have him to talk through that process, but that's the only thing that I'm aware of, at least off the top of my head.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Tom. Good luck in your new endeavor too.
Thank you.
So that is Tom's last report.
That is.
So, thank you. Next, we have Pat, end of the year AGR.
Good evening. AGR. So we'll do a quick overview. AGR is the Achievement Gap Reduction. It's a 5-year contract, which I believe we just renewed this spring. Must implement one of 3 strategies or a combination. Those strategies are one-to-one tutoring, instructional coaching for teachers, or maintaining an 18-to-1 student to teacher ratio. And that's for all the kindergarten through 3rd grade classrooms at the elementary school. The requirements are in implementing one of those 3 or a combination of those strategies, reporting the intended strategies to DPI at the beginning of the year and the actual strategies used at the end of the year to DPI, setting performance objectives that we'll go through shortly, and reporting to this group every semester. So like semester and now at the end of the year. So looking at K3 reading, our objective is to take the percentage of students scoring below the 25th percentile and reduce that number in half. So those students would bump up. This year, as part of Act 20, every school is required to use Ames Web Plus as a screener, so it made sense for us to incorporate that as the assessment tool. And there's some, as you look at the data on there, it's not where we want to be. But some things that show progress are kindergarten probably had the most success being closest, going from 60% of students in the fall being in that lowest 25th percentile down to 38%. So to me, that's encouraging because that's where those foundational skills start for reading. This is our 2nd year of using Orton Gillingham, which really teaches students the foundational skills of literacy, that if they don't have those, they're going to struggle. Even, I think the biggest selling point of using that program was last year a 1st grade teacher said, my top reader in 1st grade, by the time they got to 3rd and 4th grade, needed a reading intervention because they didn't have those skills. They did great in 1st grade by maybe some guessing, using pictures. The words are a lot shorter, they can figure those out. And then as they got older with the more complicated words, multi-syllable words, they really struggled. So it's not going to be an immediate change. We're also having teachers change their practice. which takes time. But there's, if you hear science of reading, there's research behind these methods of how to teach reading, how kids learn to read. So if we can get those foundational skills, which was a big increase in kindergarten, hopefully that translates to first grade and so on, that each year, these third and fourth graders in our building are playing catch up with some of these skills as we've just started this. So each year that should get better. Each grade level shouldn't have to go back and teach like you should have learned this in first grade, you should have learned this in second grade. They can teach their grade level content. And the hopes is those improve. So
And
the total.
This does not include the Montessori
Correct,
classrooms.
correct, just the elementary, traditional elementary. Yep.
Right.
As a total kindergarten through third grade, we have 36% of our students are in that lowest 25th percentile, which is too high. We'd love to have 0, but more realistic is probably a 5 to 10% would be a great goal. Even that's a big step from where we're at. And that's not an intervention, like we added a math and reading that you approved tonight, teacher, but that isn't just the intervention. Having 2 interventionists at the elementary building can't solve that. Takes the whole staff, the universal instruction and the interventions, and I think that was a big change this year too, that if anything good came of only having 1 reading interventionist, that we took ownership of, all teachers took ownership of all kids learning. So, as we move forward, I would like to see progress in that with the hopes of each year that'll get a little bit better. Not as quickly as we'd like, but again, we're changing how we teach, we're changing some of the assessments, and we're going forward. Moving on to math, there's some better results. Kindergarten went from 33% down to 18%. First grade, very similar, 34% to 18%. And then not as much of a change in second and third grade, but far less number of students in that lowest 25th percentile. When you look at third grade, they started the year with 7 students in that and ended with 5, which isn't a big difference, but that's more the target. Obviously, we want 0 students in that if possible, but those are much more manageable numbers for the homeroom teachers and maybe not needing as much support from an interventionist as well. So questions on that? It's a lot of data and things to look at, but it's not from lack of effort by any of our teachers, I will say that. But it's a big change from, we're asking some teachers who've taught our biggest, I think at the end of every year staff meeting, and people stand up if you've taught, you're coming back for year 2 to 5 or 5 to 10. Our biggest group is probably 20 to 30, I think, that stood up. So we're asking some amazing veteran teachers to maybe change how they've always done things or thought was best practice. But so we keep moving forward, and the more we learn, the better we can do each year.
I know this isn't part of the report, but I'm wondering if you look at the early child care, early learning center and the students that go there, I would be very curious how they do once they merge into elementary school. I don't know if that's something you all have ever considered.
We've not kept that data at this point. It's not something that we can't, that's something we can't.
I didn't know if it was something on your radar or
Yeah.
not.
But it's also our 4K program, looking at how they feed into it as well.
Yep.
They're not part of this report, but without changing how they do everything, what they can do that we know can feed into this too.
Play is so important, you want academics perhaps, but it's really play oriented at those levels too.
Yep.
We look forward to next year's
Yeah.
report.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. The next item, Krista, we have summer school update.
Well, summer school is going. It's our second week, started the second week of summer school. It's busy. Pat was tracking his steps. How many miles today?
6.2.
It's a lot of,
We did a 10K.
Yeah. So, I don't have a ton to report other than it's off and running. Things are going well. I did a little number crunching. Surprise, surprise. We have 216 students in the building daily for elementary classroom and middle school classroom outdoor adventures and high school credit recovery. In addition, we have 96 students doing swimming lessons. We have 5 students going to an event at Western, Torque and Tech, starting tomorrow. We have 15 students coming in for summer reading support. We have 71 students attending middle and high school sports, athletic programming, including weight room, speed and strength, and basketball 101. We have band and orchestra students. I don't know the numbers in there yet, but I know they're coming and going. I see them every day. We've got 81 students going on camping trips in the rest of the summer. We've got 27 students going on canoeing trips the rest of the summer. So without band and orchestra in there, that's 511 total enrolled students. Some doubles, multiple enrollments, but there's a lot going on. So it's exciting to kind of put the numbers together and see it all in motion.
Are you tired yet?
Yes.
And throw some rain in there, you know, you have to make
Cancel some of your party residents and, yeah.
maybe some thunder and lightning, you know, you just have to really challenge yourself.
But it's in its natural environment this year, so it makes things a lot easier to have the right size furniture, the right equipment, the right size cafeteria things, yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's going well.
Thank you, Krista. Any questions for anybody? Thank you, it's awesome. Very exciting. Steve, the middle school block party.
Yeah, speaking of throwing some rain and thunderstorms. Yeah. So a little bit of a different report than I usually give. This one's gonna be mostly pictures. And the first pictures I wanted to share were of our community partners here. Because this is not an event that we can pull off without our community partners. So earlier in the agenda, you guys saw that there was one donation by Citizens Bank for $100. But I wanted to share some of the other contributions that don't show up on the agenda necessarily because they're not straight monetary contributions. Organic Valley contributed all the beef for the burgers and the hot dogs, which amounted to over $1,000 of beef and hot dogs. So that was a huge contribution that made this event possible. KG Rentals gives a great discount to be able to bring in all those inflatables that we smushed into the middle school gym because of the weather. And that saved the district over $400 in the discount that they gave us there. Shade Haven, though we didn't necessarily use them because we didn't need shade on that day, had volunteered to bring in their equipment. And I don't know the exact amount, but when you look at their website, their estimated rentals that they would suggest for their equipment is somewhere between $500 and $2,000 per day. Right, so for that event, they were willing to contribute quite a bit as well. Go Macro donated 10 boxes of the kid-size macro bars, and that amounts to over $300 contributions to this event. Sleepy Hollow gave out well over 300 ice cream cones, and an estimate of those ice cream cones and ice cream treats that's over $300. It probably is well, somewhere near. Citizens Bank donated $100 for some of the odds and ends, the napkins, plates, condiments, all those things that goes into an event like that. Walmart contributed $50 as well, so it didn't make necessarily that section of the agenda, but definitely noteworthy as well. When you grill that many hot dogs and burgers, you need a big grill, and VARC has always been gracious in supplying us a grill for rental, and that saves the district an amount of money as well. Bigley Pool was open, kind of shut down. They still had some lap swimmers that were there as well, but allowed us to kind of open up the doors and but it had some games and activities in there for free for families, not just the middle school students and staff, but their families as well. Were able to come and enjoy the pool. So a huge contribution there as well. And then St. Mary's Catholic Church and Emmanuel Lutheran Church, though we didn't necessarily need it, given the weather, though we did have a large number of individuals come, but we didn't have to shut down the parking lot like we thought we were going to. but they allowed us to borrow their parking spaces for any overflow parking that was needed. But I wanted to show you guys a little bit about like what this event was going to look like. So this was going to be a literal block party, and the feedback that we've gotten, we will be doing this again. That's from the staff and from the students and from the families. This is an event that we definitely want to do again. So we were going to shut down that road, which we can do because we own that road, right? And we were going to have all the inflatables and dunk tank and all the things outside. But of course, the weather didn't cooperate. It wasn't just the rain, though. This is interesting, right? If you recall that week, there wasn't really much precipitation any other day except for the one day that we wanted to have the outdoor event, so that was unfortunate. But we also had the air quality alert as well on that day. So there were a couple of things that Mother Nature threw in store for us that was against our plans. But so we went to a plan B. So we moved all those things that would have been outside, not all of them, I guess, but a lot of the things that would have been outside, inside. We still had a great number of people show up. And a little bit about why we do this event, why we did this event. This is part of our revisioning of our parent-teacher conference contract hours, right? So our staff has it in their contract that part of that understanding is that they're here for parent-teacher conferences. And what we identified were 3 purposes for parent-teacher conferences. Crucial conversations, which is the traditional method of parent-teacher conferences. We didn't see the families that we needed to have crucial conversations with coming in. Right, so we revisioned how it is that we did that by reaching out to those families early on in the year with some of those hours. The second purpose is to have families come into the building and really see what it is that we do, right? And partnering and engaging families in the building. And that was partially what this event was tailored to, as well as showcasing some of the awesome things that happened this year and happen within our building every day, right? So you see some of the celebrations that these were contributions by different staff members, families and students, and this is just some of them. Some of the shout outs that different people got throughout the year. And it ranges from individual students to groups of students to administration is on there too. I don't know how we got up there, but administration's on there too, to teachers, to all of the staff, right? So some really incredible things that happen in our building that deserve to be celebrated. And then I wanted to show you guys, so this is what the block party kind of looked like. So we had some inflatables going on in the gym. There was some food to be eaten. There was a ton of food that was eaten, some ice cream that was happening as well. But then meanwhile, we had to cook those burgers, and that happens outside. So here are some of our staff members that are out in the rain grilling and getting very wet because it was raining sideways at some point. So that tent really didn't keep them that dry. So some really cool sacrifices that were made by them as well, willing to get wet for making some really delicious burgers. So all in all, we had somewhere between 200 and 400 people. We learned some lessons from this event. Number one, is we really didn't have a good measure at the end of it of the impact that we had. We didn't keep track of the number of burgers and hot dogs that we prepared and gave. It was somewhere over 300. We know that for sure. And the other thing is we didn't do a great job of taking pictures and videos. We were so engaged and having fun at the event, and we really need to do a better job of capturing some of those things as well. But yeah, we had hundreds of families and staff there that were happy, well-fed, dry. Some of them were dry. And 100% of our middle school staff gave us the feedback that this is something that we should do again. Overwhelming feedback that this was good use of that time and far better than some of the other efforts that we've had in the past to engage families in those parent-teacher conferences. And then there's just one example of parent feedback that we got, but tons of good positive feedback from community members, family members as well. So. Yeah, that's the middle school block party. Questions for me?
I heard everyone loved it, and they want to have it again.
Absolutely. The one piece of negative feedback that we got was they were disappointed that I wasn't in a dunk tank to be dunked. So that is definitely something that when the weather's nicer, I'm willing to do. In the rain, it kind of made it redundant, but yeah, but yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you. That is really fun, and that takes a ton of work. Like the first time you do something, oh my gosh, it is just a planning nightmare. My one question is, how far in advance did you send the information out to families about the event?
Yeah, so the first piece of information came out the month prior. So we started handing out and sending out information. If you attended the choir and orchestra events, we were handing out information there, trying to get it in face-to-face hands-on information as well. Because what we know is not everyone checks their emails, and that's kind of the most effective way that we have of like blasting out communications. But that's another piece of learning that we had too, is communicating this information out, right? We had a great turnout, but I'm sure it could have been better. So yeah, it will be.
Well, thank you. I just know people plan so far ahead sometimes. I was just curious how far ahead the planning went out to people. So thank
Yep.
you. What a
Yep.
blast. Great experience.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
The next item is Dan, co-curricular updates.
As many of you know, historically, spring sports is when we have the most success in Viroqua sports, and this spring was no different. Very widespread success. So to start, student participation, we had increases in both boys and girls track teams, the largest combined team we've ever had. We had over 75 athletes on that team combined. We also had a wheelchair track athlete this season, which was really exciting, Abby Landowski, more about her later. Baseball numbers were up as well, which is good. We're getting closer to maybe being able to have a third team sometime in the near future, which is exciting. And then in softball and tennis, our numbers were more or less unchanged. As far as team performance, we were very competitive in all sports. We were in the top half of our conference, the Cooley Conference, in softball, baseball, boys tennis, and girls track. Bottom half of the conference in boys track, which is a little bit of an anomaly because we'll hear later, boys track team was pretty stellar. They just actually had a bad day that day. Individual athlete performance, very strong across all the sports. Total, we had about 140 students participate in high school athletics. Of those 140, 29 individuals were recognized with all-conference honors. Many of those individuals were recognized with several all-conference honors. School records, the boys track team set a school record for the most school records broken in a season. 10 new school records set on the boys track team. Some of those records, I kid you not, go back to the 70s. 4 new records set on the girls track team, as well as a tied school record. 2 school records set on the softball team for individual performance and stolen bases and hits. And then Abby Landowski set 5 new school records in wheelchair track and field this season as well. Once again, conference honors, we do have a list. We can put the list up of all the athletes and their various recognitions. Kind of the highlight of that is that this year in golf, Brooks Hofflin once again was the Cooley Conference Golfer of the Year. That's his 3rd time doing that out of 4 years. Incredible achievement. And then Isaac Pratt this year was unanimous boys male track athlete of the year. He pretty much dominated the event. And at the conference meet, he broke the long jump record, which had stood since 1978, just to give you the kind of year they've had. Conference records, that was Isaac Pratt, one set on the boys' side. Regionals baseball team made it to the regionals championship, quite an accomplishment, especially considering new head coach. Incredibly big shoes to fill, came in and kept the program doing really well. And then state qualifiers, we're really fortunate there. Boys tennis team, King brothers, Owen and Levi, a senior and a sophomore brothers, advanced to doubles in state championship in Madison. On the boys track side, we had 2 athletes, Isaac Pratt and Caden Sullivan, both advanced to state track meet. Isaac Pratt took 4th in the 400 meters. Caden Sullivan took 6th in the state in the 110 hurdles. On the girls track team, we had 4 different events in which our girls qualified, including 7 female athletes. And then also, in addition to that, Abby Landowski went to the state track meet as well. And in the wheelchair track team, she placed in all 4 events and took 2nd place in the shot put. So quite a busy season, quite a frenetic season with all the weather and cancellations and just ground maintenance and all sorts of transportation and logistic juggling. But it was all worth it. Kids did great and had a lot of fun. So it was a lot of success. So that's what I've got for spring sports.
I think we also need to thank Dan for not postponing this meeting.
Yeah, I was wondering why I didn't meet the block party.
Thank you, Dan, for all that you do. It's wonderful. Thank you for all our students.
Thank you.
That is hard. That's hard. Next, we have co-curricular updates.
No, we did that.
Oh, Dan did that. You want to do it again? It was really good. And then we have VAMS, Kim and Pat.
Yep,
VAMS.
VAMS had their annual meeting tonight, and they basically reviewed all the goals and objectives they had. They've had a pretty stellar year in getting things organized, and they will soon have a new portion on our website that tells more about VAMS and shows things, students in action and those things. And they elected new officers tonight, which happen to all be the same officers, which is good for consistency because there's been a lot of turnover in that group. So they elected new officers, and things are going well. So
Pat, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope.
No, it's perfect.
Good recap.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim, for attending those, and thank you, Pat, for your leadership in that area, and you as well, Kim. Next, we have Kim again, C4 annual meeting update.
C4 annual meeting was held. Our area did not have any new elections to take place. We had a program on CISA4 is involved in AI, artificial intelligence, and doing things, it's called liftoffs, and related to reading instruction and taking those things to improve, using AI for individual students to improve their own reading skills. It's a new program. They've had a variety of schools. One of the things that they have definitely found in this process, and it will be open to additional schools as time goes on, that actually it works better in smaller schools, because in trying to teach students and staff and how to use AI, it's kind of a complicated process and they have found that because there are fewer people to train and to get doing and moving it forward, it's actually a good strategy for smaller schools to improve reading instruction. And they did a presentation, and I'll send that to Beth, and she can send that out. But CISA4 is definitely on the forefront of this and is having interest from larger districts around the state to be a part of it. It's not a cheap project. It's about a $25,000 buy-in, so you have to be all in when you're going to spend that kind of money. But I think some of the smaller districts have found it to be very effective because they don't have as many resources. So they can use this and develop more resources for it. It'll be interesting to see over time the statistics and the testing and how it actually improves education, changes education, whatever it does.
Did they let you sample it?
Say it again?
Did they let you sample the program?
No, we did not get an exact piece of the program. We just got this overview, so there's a lot more to it. And I don't know, it's a little bit beyond I can get the basics and I get what they're trying to do, but it's really just brand new. So no, we didn't get a chance to see it, so I'm sure it'll be very cool. It will not be my thing to do, but I get some other people to learn how to do that, so that was about it for that meeting.
Thank you for attending and taking the time to do that. Though WASB legislative update, once again, they're working on the budget. You know, what they came out with from the leadership was certainly not something I would come out with if it were my decision to make. Obviously, it is not. I don't know where it's going to go. But it wasn't what the governor had asked as far as K-12 education. So there's more to follow in that way. I do have a couple of things. Not very good at this, by the way. So, Kathy, on behalf of the Viroqua Schools Board and District, we want to thank you for your dedication to our educators, students, and families. I'm gonna have you read it. I said I'm not good at it. Can you read my scribble?
Where are we at here? On behalf of the VAS Board and District, we want to thank you for your dedication to our educators, our students, and our families. You have assisted our students in a million different ways through their personal and academic journeys. Your ability to listen, empathize, and make decisions that are difficult has made an impact on children's lives. You have implemented new programs to support our children that will positively impact our children throughout their lives. You are trusted and admired by our staff and in your leadership role. We wish you happiness, good health, and fulfillment in your years ahead. You will be missed. Thank you.
And I'll have you read that.
This one too?
Yes.
Tom. Hi. We want to express our heartfelt thanks for the exceptional leadership, dedication, and vision you have brought to our district. Your guidance, commitment to educational excellence, and your ability to lead with both strength and compassion have been deeply admired and appreciated. You have made a lasting impact on our students, staff, board, and community. You've steered our district through many positive changes with students' best interests at heart. Your positive influence will be felt throughout our district for years to come. We are excited for you and your family and confident that you will continue to lead and inspire moving forward. Thank you for everything. We wish you continued success, good health, and fulfillment always. You will be missed. With sincere appreciation, Angie and the board.
And we have one more thing. Kathy already received this. And we're starting to give these to people that retire. But you're not retired.
Oh, no.
So that is a gift from our district.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I don't, do you have anything you wanna say?
It's been a privilege to work for the district of my heart. Growing up here, graduating from here multiple times. And
She keeps calling it retirement graduation.
yes, because it is. It's a graduation into the next level. So the special ed staff and the student staff, the regular ed staff are stellar in this district. Any of the districts that I have been in previous to this, and I've worked in a few, I would hold our staff up to them in any level. So it's been a privilege. It's been a true privilege to be working for the district of my heart. So thank you.
And I have to add, just because I've been here every step of Kathy's way. I was here when she graduated from high school. I'm still here as she retires and moves on. And I am fortunate to have worked with her, for her, in every single way, shape, and form, and, hell, it means I'm old, but thank you for your service, Kathy. It's been a great journey. Thank you.
So just really quickly, I just want to thank, I want to thank the board for 5 years ago taking a flyer on this younger district administrator and giving me an opportunity to learn and to lead and to grow through an outstanding experience and the best one of my life professionally to this point. And I'm really it's a bittersweet moment, but when we think about this 5 years ago, and you told me a couple things. One was you did not like sitting still and did not want to become a stagnant district. I think we've accomplished the not sitting still, and so when we talk through from 5 years ago, coming back from COVID to the opening an ELC, to creating a partnership with the pool, to passing a capital referendum, to passing an operational referendum. This has been a lot of hard work by way more than just me. And it has been an incredible honor to say that I was a superintendent here for Viroqua area schools and to be a part of such an amazing staff, an amazing team. So thank you guys for giving me that opportunity. I will owe you one forever. And I'm really excited for Dr. Hill and for the leadership that he's going to bring to take this district to the next level. I truly believe he will. And I believe he is the right leader for you guys moving forward. And I can't wait to see what you guys accomplish. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah. So,
Second.
thanks for coming in, Angie.